Hello, real-time money talk. So the last time you probably saw a video from me was 3 or 4 years ago when we were going into isolation, and then I basically disappeared and deleted all my videos. And now I'm coming back and I'm going to talk about the last 5 years of investing and what I have actually learned over the last 5 years while I've been investing and also using Sharesies. So I've still been using Sharesies throughout this whole time. A bit has changed. I'm not going to speak about that. I'm really going to focus on what I've learned personally over the last 5 years when I have been investing. And like usual, this is not financial advice. I'm just going to go over the 5 things that I've learned for myself over the last 5 years, which I will be applying now and onto the future. And of course, things can change. I'm not silly. I'm just saying currently from what I have learned, these are things that I have found have made a big difference for myself. So let's get into my portfolio. You're probably wondering, how's my portfolio? Because last time you saw it, it was around $5,000. So I have been investing still, and currently I have invested $38,057. So $38,000 basically, and my portfolio is down around 9.5%, and I'm currently at 33,857. So cool, I am down, and I don't really care too much. I don't really care. I've kind of accepted the reality because it got down a lot worse than that. But just letting you guys know, I am down and it is what it is. Cool. So what I have found is so important is discipline. Discipline is such an important thing that I have found throughout my investing journey and looking back on the last 5 years. And the reason for that is I can look over the last 5 years, if I average that out into 260 weeks, I can see that I've invested $146 on average per week. So this is something that is so important because I know that I could have invested more money. I knew I could have been better with my money. And I can see that I've only done, let's just say 150. If I had done $300 instead of having $38,000 invested, I would have around $75,000 invested, 73,000, 75,000. So it's very important to have the discipline. I lacked that at the start. So at the start, I just lacked the discipline, and I can see that sometimes I've invested a lot a week, and then sometimes I've just missed it completely. So discipline is such an important thing to have. I have figured out that I need to be disciplined, and that will lead me to my next point. Automation. Now, everything's a lot easier with Sharesies now and other brokers where you can automate it. So literally, once you set everything up, it's hands-free. So what I failed to do was automate at the start. So for around the last 8 months, I have been running automation. And what does that mean? So the money comes into my bank account, and then I have an automatic payment to pay Sharesies, let's just say $100. It's not that much, but for an example. And then I have auto invest set up so that $100 will get invested into whatever I want to invest into. So automation is such a beneficial thing to have, definitely with shares, because what happens is you get paid and that money gets shot automatically, bang, down to Sharesies, and I'm not in my bank account being like, oh, I've got $100 there, oh, I'll just use that $100 instead of investing it. It's automatic, so you get used to not having that money there, and that helps you because you can keep investing and hitting your goals. So I've kind of went through the steps, But automation is such an important thing to do, and now that Sharesies is capable with auto invest, maybe 3 or 4 years ago it wasn't, but it's a good function and I really like that function. Number 3 for myself is I have learned that I cannot win against the market, at least currently. So S&P 500 is something I'm going to invest into, and I've put some numbers down there, and you can see that if I had of invested into the S&P 500, my $38,000 would probably be around $46,000. And that's a rough estimate. I just used a calculator online. General returns of the S&P, it could be a bit more, could be a bit less. And if I look at what I've currently invested, I've invested 38k and I'm down about 6k. So that does suck. But what I've learned now is the majority of the shares I am going to invest into, like an ETF, like S&P 500, is going to be something safer. So maybe for me, I think probably 70% is going to be on something like the S&P 500 for myself. And then I will play around with the other 20-30%. But I want the majority of the actual shares that I own personally to be in something like the S&P 500, a long-term investment. And I'm going long-term, so the S&P 500 makes a lot of sense. So that's what I have learned. You can see on the graph the results I would have got. So S&P 500, 100%, I'm putting most of my investment into S&P 500, the majority, and then the rest I can play around with, have fun. I don't care if I lose a couple of dollars, but when the majority of my money is on higher risk investments, I am not that comfortable doing that anymore. And for the investing I want to do, it's more long term. So S&P 500 is what I'm going for now. Number 4 is budgeting. It's so simple, but it's such a challenging thing to actually get dialed in. I've found that budgeting is such an effective tool, but it's very hard to do. Psychologically, it's challenging. Logically, it makes sense. So this example here, income minus expenses, and then you've got your disposable income. Let's say it's $200. Cool, you can invest $200 a week and you're good to go. What do you want to actually do with your income? So for me, I want to increase my income and decrease my expenses. So budgeting is such an effective tool to make sure you know exactly where your money's going. Because if you don't tell your money where to go, it just disappears. And it doesn't disappear in the sense like it just vanishes and someone steals your money, but you spend it on silly stuff that you probably don't actually need. So budgeting is something that's so important, and a good tip that I have integrated into my budgeting is with ANZ, I've got like 5 or 10 different accounts, and when my money comes into my bank account, it will put it into all these different sections. So I might have car maintenance, I might have fuel, I might have food, and I might have some other categories. And when I get paid, it will automatically pay these different accounts. So that means when I go shopping, I'll go into my food account and transfer while I'm at the shop. Now, I know some people are not gonna like this approach. I understand that, but it works for me. So that's something that might work for you as well. So that was number 4. Number 5 is education. Education is such an important role in growing as an investor. And I've found that it's very easy to kind of get stuck in a routine, but not educate and grow as an individual. So the books I've been reading, which are quite simple and nice to read, something like this here, Dave Ramsey, The Total Money Makeover. It makes things very simple. Get an emergency fund, pay off your debt, build a big emergency fund, and then it has all these other steps. It makes sense, and I've applied this to my personal life and it's helped me a lot. Building that emergency fund, I didn't have one actually specifically dedicated to an emergency fund, but it makes so much sense. So I've done that now. I've cleared all my debt. I'm debt free. Like, it's so nice. So this book has helped me a lot. For people that are more sophisticated and are very on top of their finance, I would still say it's like a nice book just to brush over. But just definitely for someone who just wants to get the bare basics and kind of get a roadmap to get your life in order, I found that this is actually quite a cool book to read. And the other book I've read is The Psychology of Money. Very interesting book. Really hits home on the investor's behavior and how that affects how they invest. So I really like this book. Definitely worth a read as well. For me, I'm going to try read 20 books a year because I think education and growth is very important for myself and also for other people. So education is a very important thing. So that's it. I've been gone for 3 to 4 years, and you can see how my portfolio has performed or underperformed. I hope you like this video. I hope for some of you, you get some value and you can learn from what I have done, and you can kind of hopefully get some value from the video. So like the video, please, just like always. Comment if you've got some awesome advice. I would love to hear some advice of what you've done or some amazing things you've implemented which have got good results. And if you do want to sign up to Sharesies, there will be a link in the comment section and you can get $5 for signing up if that is still valid. So see you later. Have a good day. Ciao.